Monday, and we are glad to be back with you again this morning. This week, I want to spend some time talking about the A's of confession, 7 A's of confession. Last week I spent one of the days talking about what we need to be doing as part of forgiveness, and so today I'm taking the other side. About our confession and what does that mean and how does it look like and what does the Bible teach us. And so I want to take you to Matthew chapter 7, and maybe this week there's some person, some situation that God will bring to your heart through the Holy Spirit to remind you that you need to forgive, and maybe there's the next step that you need to take, and that's the area of confession. Admitting, acknowledging, and communicating the truth that you were at least partially at fault in the situation. And so in Matthew chapter 7, these are the words of Jesus. And I won't spend a lot of time on verse 1. I want to pick it up in verses 3 through 5. But notice in verse 1 of Matthew 7, Jesus starts with this phrase, "Judge not." Boy, is that a lightning rod for a lot of emotion and thoughts. But if I jump down to verse number 3 and deal with the subject at hand, Jesus says this, "Why do you see the speck that is in your brother's eye, but you do not notice the log that is in your own eye?" I kind of think Jesus might be a little bit of humor and tongue-in-cheek here because he's using these extreme illustrations to help us understand how difficult it is when we're looking at someone else and acknowledging their problem and we're completely overlooking the fault that is in our own life. Verse 4, "Or how can you say to your brother, 'Let me take the speck out of your eye,' when there is a log in your own eye?" I don't know if that just gives you a funny visual, but for me it's hilarious. I mean, it's like the tip of a toothpick is in your brother's eye, and a telephone pole is in your own eye. Jesus is really driving this point home here. And then he says in verse 5, "You hypocrite, first take the log out of your own eye, and then you will see clearly to take the speck out of your brother's eye." Now, there's two parts that go to this, and we can make application to both. One might just be the issue of the size of the problem, the size of the offense, how serious, how deep, how hurtful was it. One could be more extreme than the other, or it could be our perspective on the issue that, oh, your sin is worse than my sin. It's like somebody I once heard said, "What's the difference between major surgery and minor surgery?" It's major surgery if it's on me, and it's minor surgery if it's on you. And I think that's what Jesus is trying to illustrate here is these issues that you and I face in life, we are blinded to our own faults, and we magnify the fault that is in someone else's life. And so it really doesn't matter what the issue is. It doesn't matter how serious it is. What matters is, do you honestly, according to the scriptures, see your issues and not downplay them compared to someone else that's a part of your life? And so Monday, Wednesday, Friday this week, I'm going to share a couple principles from the 7 A's of confession. And there's a guy by the name of Ken Sande. I've referred to him in the past. He started an organization called the Peacemakers. And in his material, he lists these 7 A's. And I recently ran across them and wanted to share them because I think they're just so profound in this aspect of being obedient to what the truth of the scriptures teach us. And so here's the first A in the area of confession, removing the telephone pole from my eye before I deal with the speck in someone else's eye. First A, address everyone involved. The particular issue here is if you sinned in private, you confess in private, or if you sinned in public, you confess in public. And a lot of times in life, we don't want to deal with this more than we have to, and so we try to limit the fallout by only confessing to the immediate person. However, what we said or did, or what was known about what we said or did, might be broader than just that one person. And so it's necessary in some cases to address others, not just the particular individual. For example, if a husband and wife have a spat and hurtful things are said or emotions are unchecked, and the kids are hearing, the kids are seeing, they're experiencing, not only does that husband or wife need to confess to each other, but they would also need to go to their children and say, look, mommy or daddy was wrong in this. We sinned and we were acting inappropriate, and we've confessed that to God as sin, and now we're asking for your forgiveness as well. So I think that's pretty self-explanatory. Here's the second one. Avoid ifs, buts, and maybes. And if you're like me right now, you've kind of got a little giggle going on, because we've all been there, done that. We've been offended when someone confessed to us and they use the ifs, the buts, or the maybes. But we've also done it ourselves. I was wrong, but I wouldn't have done that. However, you did. Maybe I offended you, or if you wouldn't have said this, I wouldn't have done that. Those are not proper confessions. We need to own our behavior, own our sin, and confess properly. And let me tell you, I've failed at this one multiple times. I've used the excuse of the ifs, the buts, and the maybes. And those are not helpful. They are not owning it the way that we should. And so this week, let's learn to communicate better. Let's learn to be godly, not just in our relationships, but in our keeping relationships proper. And so the 7 A's of confession this week, today, address everyone is involved and avoid the ifs, buts, and maybe. And so just maybe this will help you this week. Have a great day.